Good morning, everyone. Let me share the link out for this live stream. This was meant to be a members live stream, but because of some issues in the Discord, I'll just make it public. We'll share it here. Live stream starting. Yeah, so basically our members Discord, we updated how the roles were assigned, and because of that, some people don't have their membership roles, so I'm just going to make this a public live stream. And I may as well just share it on Twitter. All right, so yeah, I thought I'd hop onto a live stream here as we come into the New York Open. Bitcoin testing the range lows. Lots of altcoins breaking down. Let me make sure my mic is on. Perfect. All right, perfect. Yeah, I think everyone should have their roles back now if they resubmitted their membership link, their Discord link. All right, so let's start on Bitcoin first. A lot of volume coming in here. We had several 100 million volume come in very quickly at the lows of this range. We did the classic wick up and then a rejection down into the lows. But here's the thing. We're still holding this range. We just swing failured it. We're coming into the New York Open in about 15 minutes, which is going to be important to look at. Is there any reason to consider this as anything more than still just ranging price action? Not really, because we're still above the highs. We've grabbed the liquidity under this low. We're still above the range lows. So it's very possible that we just carry right on back up. And I'm just going to use this as and this could even be the spring to go higher, but I just want to use this as an example of risk reward really quick. So let's just create a hypothetical scenario or situation where we say, well, what are the odds that this level holds as support? That's going to be a relatively subjective answer from all of us, but all of us might have an idea. We might say, there's a 50% chance this level holds as support. There's a 30% chance, the 20% chance, whatever that number is, right? So, some of you, if you want, feel free to even leave what you think the odds are in the chat. It's not that relevant. But the idea of taking like a risk managed long here is, well, let's say you think the odds are 40%, whatever they are. And you're just looking to even trade this range, right? Like this would be like a low time frame long, even though there would be arguments for scalp longs off of here. So you're looking at, maybe a 12 to 1, 10 to 1 risk reward ratio, depending on where you catch the long from and where you put your stop, just longing the lows of this range. And so this basically means that you could take this trade, 10 times or 20 times, and you could lose it half the time, or you could even lose it 70% of the time, and you'd still make money longing the range lows. And so this is the idea of longing support, shorting resistance is, if you're looking for your shorts up at resistance and you're looking for your longs down at support, and you're managing your risk appropriately. So if you get stopped out, you're stopping your trade out and you're waiting for either the lows to be reclaimed or for lower to look for longs, then I think it's a super reasonable way to trade, and it's how I prefer to trade. The big place where you can get yourself into trouble is not having a stop loss, not having a plan for if the range doesn't hold, and just holding a losing trade if the bottom drops out. So you're really looking to limit your risk at the lows of the range. And those can give you nice setups, but you have to build losing into your plan. So long story short, am I interested in longs here? Yes, I am on Bitcoin. So anyways, what do we know? Bitcoin is at the range lows, at support. We've grabbed that liquidity, and the New York opens in 12 minutes. That's an important time to look for pivots. This was the date here doesn't really matter. This was me just showing the difference of this level on different exchanges, or this channel. So this channel we've tapped on ETH. I've talked about this over the last little while. This was a level to the downside where, let me just go to a high time frame channel. Anyways, it's just using the major highs as your anchor, or your trend line rather, and then anchoring it to this low. And I just pointed out that we have this major channel below us on ETH, and I'd be very interested if we did come down and tap that channel and then reclaim this low. I would look for a swing long. Again, just managing my risk, with the thesis being that we're going to hold up this channel as a high time frame support. Whether or not we do or don't, time will tell, but the idea would be to trade this channel back up. I know that seems ambitious, but again, I'm a technical trader, so this is how you would technically trade the channel. As far as other alts go, I mean, we have FTM looking at maybe swing failuring this low. We have all these scribbles. Near swing failuring this low. I was pointing out yesterday just on near that there's really only, as we came down to this level, there's really only two levels of support to trade on near, which is, this horizontal level and this horizontal level. We either sweep and reclaim, super reclaim, either of these. And other than that, you have no structure, and you're really anticipating that something like this is more likely now if you can't reclaim this level. If you can reclaim it, then you just have a swing failure, and you could certainly just keep ranging back up. But so the thing about this is, basically, if you're below this line, and you could use this as your deviation, where you could allow for a little bit of deviation now. If you're below this line, you don't want longs, probably, until much lower. If you've reclaimed it, you have basically a long setup with a invalidation there. That's going to be the same across a ton of alts, like Cardano, same thing. We have this low. Until we reclaim that low, you would really be anticipating much lower. Yeah, so I am interested in looking for longs into this New York Open. What would I look for personally? I'd look for maybe even just a sweep of these local lows as a trigger, and then reclaim them with a stop under here. Sorry, I gotta sneeze 1 second. Excuse me. Okay, I'm just going to read through a couple comments because I saw one that caught my eye. Somebody said, what do you think about flipping your thesis and logic and looking at taking shorts at resistance, i.e. past support? Yeah, so you're talking about taking shorts at when you flipped resistance? That's fine. I'll just give an example here on near where, I mean, this is something I talk about in the Discord. These support resistance flips. Let's go to the 15-minute chart, where you're holding levels as support, and you can just look at them on horizontal levels where you create this wick at support. There was the 886 fib here. You lose it, and then you flip it into resistance, and then you lose that. We never even flipped anything into resistance here. But even on a really low time frame, you'll notice price moving that way, where you create support, flip it into resistance and carry on lower, and price will also move that way to the other side, right? It will create support, resistance, flip it to support. And so you're saying, what about shorting that flip? You definitely can. You just want to use risk management, but you'll see price stair stepping down like that all the time, where you're flipping previous support into resistance, support into resistance. Even on a low time frame, you'll see it on a high time frame, and you'll notice sometimes that those setups, more on high time frames, are actually oftentimes a part of my short or long setups. One of the reasons I shorted here at 25.2K on Bitcoin is this was one of my confluences for resistance. It's the exact same thing on a really high time frame, where you have support, you lose it, and you flip it as resistance. And that's why one of the reasons I shorted here, among many others. And so, yeah, just pointing out, you can do that. It's the exact same thing as the 5-minute chart on here on near, the exact same concept. It's perfectly reasonable to find shorts that way. And I often do use that exact concept just on a higher time frame. Okay, I'm going to read some more comments. I'm just reading the most recent one, which is, am I flat or long? I'm short because I have what I have of all my shorts from the highs up here are running, and I don't have, all my longs are stopped out. So do I want to only be short down here? Not really. I mean, if I want to look for longs here, but if I get a nice technical setup, I get one. If I don't, not a big deal. But we kind of already have one on Bitcoin. We just have the New York Open coming up. So, okay, let me scroll through these comments for a second. All right. Okay. Yeah, so a couple questions about the ES or the S&P. Yeah, I mean, we certainly could see lower. I would be more apt to look for the New York Open here and see what happens. This looks suspiciously like a descending parallel channel. But probably just set a alert on this. I'd be interested. Oops, I meant to click Ray. I'd be interested to just see what price is doing as we come to the lows of this channel. I just like to offset a ray on a channel and send an alert this way. Somebody said, "Hey, Lucky, I would love to hear about your trade stats. I guess they're really amazing. How long did it take you to go on your current win rate?" Well, currently, I mean, the last week has probably been one of my worst weeks in trading in a while. I'm not on a nice win streak. I don't really understand the question 100%, but I have a pretty decent win rate. It's because it's all probabilities. Having a higher win rate, like let's just say you are in the 70 to 75%, 80% win rate at times. It kind of depends on the setups you're trading. It just means that you're more likely to go on long win streaks than say if you have a 50% win rate. It just makes winning. If you trade enough times, it's not uncommon for me to go on 8, 9, 10 trade win streaks, but that hasn't been the case this week. But ultimately, Bitcoin has been ranging in a pretty tight range, and when Bitcoin's ranging, I mean, typically altcoins pump when Bitcoin's ranging, but they can also dump. But the point is, altcoins can be a little more volatile. So, it hasn't really been that crazy. I mean, this isn't this crazy for Bitcoin, but a lot of alts are breaking down major support. But that means they're also at major support. So could it be logical for Bitcoin to pump along with some alts here? Could be. We have some important fib times coming up too on Bitcoin. But yeah, I want to just clarify, like for the way I trade, it's not about, I'm really trying to limit my risk to a small area on the chart. So obviously there's no way when we're up here that I'm going to be longing. This is where I'm either going to be shorting or not taking trades. If I wanted to be longing, I would have asked myself, well, why didn't I long here, 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 here? Why didn't I long support? I'm never going to long at the at resistance. Same thing at support. If I'm never going to short down here, and this is just the way I approach my trading. If I wanted shorts, I'd ask myself, why don't I have shorts already? Why do I only want shorts at support? And this is how I think everyone could benefit from stopping them and stop themselves from FOMOing into positions is, you're not prepared when every time price is at support and it looks like it's going to break down or might break down, you're only just looking for shorts. And every time price is at resistance and might break out, you're only just looking for longs. And the question is, I know it can be hard to, and it can all look easy in hindsight, but the question is, if you wanted, there's plenty of times to look for shorts here, and for me, this isn't the time. Plenty of times to look for longs, and this is one of the times. And I did long here, and I did long all these retests of the lows, and I'd probably long this one too. If the odds I don't long this are very low. Basically, the price is going to have to dump straight off the map here if I was not to long this. We have the NY open 1 minute ago. Yeah, so now New York is open. The S&P is going to be a little more interesting here now that the global markets are open. Maybe we get one more sweep of the lows. Not a lot of support here, though. I mean, we have some ground to make up to reclaim some levels. It's up to your level of confidence in terms of, how much do you could wait for some of these horizontal levels to be flipped back into support, trade a smaller size. For me, we've already swing failured the lows here. I'm just going to pull up. I've got to refresh something on another page here. Yeah, I'm probably so basically I'm getting ready to long here, and there's a couple things that would trigger a long for me. One would be breaking this just local structure, put a stop under here, or coming down and sweeping these lows. I'd rather come down lower frankly, but someone's saying if you right click and hit reset chart, it's funny. There's also it resizes your chart. There's also a hotkey for that, Alt R, and for some reason it doesn't work on my keyboard anymore. I actually didn't realize you could do it from this menu. I just always use the hotkey. That's actually nice to know because I would like that reset there, but the hotkey doesn't work for me anymore. Wow, that's a huge. Sorry, just trading view things. You can exit brush tool by right clicking. That's nice as well. Yeah, that makes sense. Exiting a tool by right clicking. But yeah, like I said, I'm as far as Bitcoin goes, I'm not really particularly bearish here. This is where I'd look for longs. Whew. Can pull some local fibs. Someone asking what would be, well, not just someone, Spyros, one of our Discord moderators, what level would be your invalidation? 17,965 question mark. So this is also important. For a swing failure setup, your invalidation is under the new low. So you have your deviation, and you could put it directly under, you could give it a little space, whatever you want to do. This is all, it's a little subjective. It's because your invalidation, your technical invalidation here is you don't want to be long. This is how I look at it anyways. You don't want to be long if you're breaking down the support. You might wick through it and deviate. You want to be long if you're claiming this support. And that's the level that matters, right? This is your range lows. And you could, same thing if we swing failure, the major low at 17,565. And when you talk about invalidation, if price comes down here, say you long, price comes down here and sweeps a stop and then reclaims this low. Now, I would still want to be in a long because the fact that price came down and deviated from the range lows a little bit more and then reclaimed it doesn't invalidate the idea of a long. The level I'm interested in holding is the range lows. And so the same thing would be for Cardano here. If this range is holding, I want a long. If it's not, I want out of my longs. And I'm not going to reopen. There's no structural support here. I'm not going to reopen my longs until this level is reclaimed or until we see lower. And what if I was in a long, what invalidates, basically when you have a stop outside of the range you're trading, let's say, you want to leave a little bit of room for deviation, but you But basically, as soon as price is outside that range, you don't want longs, and as soon as it's back into it, you want longs. That's how I'd look at it. So the actual dollar figure of, where's your invalidation, $17,965. It isn't really that important. It could be, it's in this area. You could allow a little bit of room for a deviation, but basically the more room you leave, the less likely you are to get stopped out, and the smaller you have to trade. I certainly would. I mean, when I say it's not relevant, I mean it's not relevant within like this degree, right? It's relevant if you put your stop way down here, although there's nothing wrong with having a stop under this major low. But yeah, and the reason I'm answering this is because I just want you to think about where you would put your stop loss, and how you would think about it is, well, I want to leave a little bit of room for some deviations outside of this range. But basically, I don't want longs if this range is breaking down, and I want them if it's holding. And if we're reclaiming the range, then I want in. If we're not, then I want out. And what people could be worried about happening in that type of scenario, they could be worried about, well, what if I'll just go to a low time frame here. They could say, well, what if price comes down, sweeps the range lows, I enter a long, I put my stop here, but then price comes and stops me out, and then it reclaims the range, and I re-long, and then it stops me out, and then it re-enters the range, and then I re-long, and it stops me out. That could happen, certainly, but if it does happen once or twice, price probably isn't going to do this forever. You're probably going to get a directional move relatively quickly out of these range lows where we either break down or we break out. And so, anyways, what I would say is, if I long this, I get stopped out, I would just long it again if we reclaimed with a new stop, because and if I get stopped out again, it's very unlikely that we come back and reclaim this range without just sweeping the major low here, which would be another setup. Someone asking if I monitor my trades or if I just let the stop loss and TP do the work. Well, I monitor them to a degree, but I am still just letting my stop loss and TP do the work. Like, if my stop loss is if I enter a long and my stop loss is here, that's where my stop loss is. I'm not going to say, ooh, like, I'm not going to see something and just say I'm going to stop my trade out early, because that's just trying to guess what's going to happen. The technical invalidation is the range lows. But the only thing I do, he said do. The only thing I do is for my TP1, I will sometimes take that manually. So let's just say that let's just say I long here, and then price wicks back up into this level, and we start seeing a rejection. I might just take profit 1 and set my stop loss to entry. Whereas instead of just having that manually preset as a TP, instead of having that preset as an automatic TP, I would just manually take it, because if we just break through that level and reclaim it, then I'm not going to TP1 there. Because I'm always looking for a really quick TP1 to get my trade into profits, and then I can just set my stop to entry. Maybe I close 30% of it, and then it's a free trade. That, say something like this would be almost a 2% move. Lock in TP1, and then stop to entry and let the rest carry on. I'm just reading a couple questions. Someone asking, how do you avoid a situation where you are waiting to see if a level holds and missing the trade because you were waiting for confirmation too much? Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can avoid that. One is you can just have a plan to take the trade in a few different scenarios. So you could take it a little smaller, say here, if you didn't get a retest at the lows, you might say, well, you know what? And you could kind of look at this as scaling into a position. You could say, you know what? I'm going to take a small position here on this market structure break, and then I'll add to it if we come down lower. So I'd just say, have a plan to scale into a position and get some exposure. I think that's what the mistake so many people make is they kind of have, regardless of how they trade, the size they trade, the risk they take, they have an all-in mentality where it's like, I'm going all in as soon as price goes here, which could be 0.3% away, but they have no plan to have any exposure if price front runs their target by 0.1%. So, you could just scale into a position. Take a little bit of exposure. Somebody asking what percentage is okay for a TP1. I think anywhere between 30 and 50% is reasonable, depending on if it's a swing trade or a scalp. Somebody's saying, how do you manage risk? What's a good percentage of your portfolio to risk in one trade? The standard is 1 to 2% of your account should be risked on a single trade. In crypto, you might want to play with that a little bit because the market's so correlated. So if you have 5 positions open and they're all 2%, then you're actually probably risking 10% because if the market, moves to the downside or it moves against your position rather, probably your whole portfolio is going to move in that direction. So that's why I like trading long and short at the same time. It kind of offsets some of that correlation. And I don't mean at the same time in terms of like I'm opening a long and a short here on Bitcoin, but I'd open a long here even though I have shorts from higher. So shorts at resistance, longs at support, take profits on shorts on the way down, longs on the way up, stop loss entry on those positions, and then I'm less concerned about which way price breaks. Just more focused on trading longs at support and shorts at resistance. Yeah, I said 1 to 2%. Someone's saying they just asked if I said 2%. And there's a mathematical reason for that risk management. I have some videos on this in the in the members group. But basically, you can calculate the odds of, let's just say a five trade loss streak and 7, 8, 9, 10 loss streak with a fixed win rate. So let's just say you have a 50% win rate or a 60, 70, 80% win rate. I go over what are your odds of losing 5, 6, 7 trades in a row. And the thing is, if you trade enough times, if you trade 1,000 times, your odds of losing in that 1,000 trades of losing 8 trades in a row is almost 100%. And so the reason you use risk management is because there will come a day when you will lose 8 trades, or a time when you will lose 8 trades in a row, and your risk management system needs to be able to handle that. If you trade, it's the same idea of what are your odds of flipping a coin and it landing on heads 5 times in a row. It's very low if you just flip it 5 times, but if you flip that coin 1,000,000 times, the odds of over the course of that 1,000,000 times that coin landing on heads 5 times in a row is incredibly high. Eventually it's going to happen. And so you don't know when it's going to happen as a trader, but eventually, in the same way that you're going to go on win streaks, you're going to go on loss streaks. And you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're not using risk management, when those loss streaks hit. So, such is life. I do have a small long running here. I mentioned earlier that if this market structure breaks locally, I'm going to execute a long. I just execute with a market order. I have everything typed in with my stop loss. But I'd still like, I'm going to leave some room to add here because I would still like to add if we can get a deeper retracement. We still are under local resistance here. I just want some exposure at support here. Some long exposure. But this is setting up a nice, potential liquidity grab. Maybe we come up, sweep these local highs into resistance. Something like that would be nice. Or we just reclaim this level. Someone says, what about Bitcoin dominance changes? Gee, I'm going to set a local alert here. And a local alert here. Okay, sorry. Someone says, what about if Bitcoin dominance changes and what Bitcoin dom percentage would help the alts go the other way? Much like other charts, I don't just look at the percentage. Actually, let's flip here. I just look at technical levels. So Bitcoin dominance has been in a range. When we came up to the highs of the range here back in June, I said, hey, Bitcoin dominance is back at the highs of the range. You might expect it to come back to the lows of the range. Very similar to just what we're looking at the Bitcoin chart. We came down and we swing failure the lows of the range. Now we're coming back up towards some the 382 resistance here. So I just chart Bitcoin dominance the same. When it's at resistance, like here, I expect lower. If we break resistance, I expect higher. When we're at support, I expect higher. If we break support, I expect lower. And you can just chart it just the same as anything else. Someone's asking, so they're saying they opened a long on ETH and asking what a good stop loss is. I would argue that if you're opening a long here, it's a swing failure that you're interested in. So under the new low, I would honestly, personally, just run my stop right under this new low. Because I trade it as a swing failure. And that's how you trade swing failures. All right. It is time for me there's a few things I'm interested in trading here, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm interested in longing ETH. I'm longing it now. I'll update the Discord, which I'm always so bad at doing. Just got to mainly want to put my invalidation. I've already long, by the way. I'm bad at updating the Discord when I'm live streaming. I always forget. Yeah, so I talked about this idea a couple days ago. I guess I maybe refreshed it yesterday. All right. Well, I might do some trading here as the morning progresses, and I'd like to see how Bitcoin's price action progresses as we test this first local resistance, see if we get a retracement. But I'll give updates in the Discord. It looks like all the role assignments are working now. So for those of you that are members, we had to do something where people lost their membership status. But you should, if you haven't resubmitted your link Discord on the website, you can do that, and it should work perfectly fine now. I think most of you are back with your member status. But yeah, I'll keep everybody updated. I'm going to share some charts in the Discord, and I'm still more interested in longs than shorts, personally. If you were wanting to scalp shorts, well, maybe maybe you wait for a move up into the VWAP. Maybe you pull some local resistance fibs, and something like this could be a scalp short. TP back into the lows of this local range, and then you could let the rest run if you don't have any shorts. I mean, in terms of, you can basically trade anything on any time frame. You just have to understand how to pull technical levels and understand how to manage your risk. And you can look for longs and shorts and set up your positions in a way that makes you feel comfortable. Where if you're looking for ways to, if you're looking for some short positions to add into your set of positions, then do some analysis, find some short setups, and trade them technically. If you're looking for some longs, do the same thing. But it's not. I'll just stress this before I leave. It's not about guessing where price is going to go. It's about identifying support and resistance, and understanding that whether price action seems random or not, it is almost always moving between support and resistance. Price is forming ranges. It's deviating, wicking through those ranges, and then rotating back down on all time frames. This is the 1 minute chart, obviously, right? But you're just looking for those reactions. But anyways, and I'm pulling this golden pocket here. Obviously, we were consolidating at the range golden pocket for a little while. We got a decent reaction there here at support, but we have now broken it down, and we're testing the range lows. And if Bitcoin comes down and takes this low, all I'm going to be looking for is to see if that low is reclaimed or not. Or if we reject from it, then you're expecting lower, expecting this other low to get tested. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time here in the live stream.